unicorns and rainbows, the symbols of a perfect workplace, a perfect company where everybody gets along and everybody's more special than the person next to one another, and there's no problems. Except that's not quite the real world now, is it? Once we introduce people and all the stresses and requirements, you have the conflict, you have the tension, you have the disagreements between people, between organizations, and this is just the real world. Now, what is one of the primary forces that drives this disagreement? It's communication, or more specifically, a communication breakdown. And this is going to lead to a number of problems. We're going to talk about 3 failure statistics related to communication specifically. The first one comes out of a recent study at Pepperdine University on toxic workplaces. And from the survey, they asked people what's the most significant factors that contribute to a toxic workplace. Coming in at number 1, at 35%, was poor communication, higher even than workplace politics. It has such a direct impact on each person. It can influence not only your mood, but how well you do, how well you are viewed by other people, how well you view them or not. And so communication plays a huge role here in the health or toxicity at a workplace. Now, the next 2 statistics we're going to go over are from a PricewaterhouseCoopers study done on project success and failure. This study went over thousands of projects. And one thing that's interesting to note before we dive into the 57%, only about 2.5% of projects were rated complete successes. About 27% were partial successes, and then 70% were failures. Of those that were failures, communication was a contributing factor or the reason for failure 57% of the time. Now, this can mean a lot of different things. It could be something as straightforward as how well someone speaks, how well they write, what kind of presentations are delivered, what kind of visual communications, design work is done. But it can also, and more importantly, involve the dissemination of information. When requirements change, customer demands change, staffing changes, how you're going to do stuff, dates, due dates, anything across the spectrum of working on this project. How well is that communicated out? And amongst the project failures, 57% of the time, not well. So this can have a drastic effect, which we're going to see in our third and final statistic, which is 17%. 17% represents that out of the projects that fail, that the failure is so significant that it risks the existence of that organization, that failure could potentially be fatal to that organization still being around. Now, of course, this is also on a spectrum. So if you are a big multinational company and you lose hundreds of millions of dollars, that's going to hurt, but it may not put you out of the game, depending on how big you are, who you are, and stuff like that. But if you're a small business, maybe losing $50,000 pits you out, drives you into bankruptcy. It just kind of depends. It's all relative. But keeping that in mind, of those projects that fail, almost 1 in 5 of them have the ability to put a company out of business. So these are things to remember as we go forward in our communication. These are 3 stats to keep in mind, and what the impact are that they can have on you as an individual, but also the project and the organization that you're leading or working for.